I'm AJ Cassavel, and this is your Padres update. Evidently, AJ Preller was not done searching for starting pitching this winter, even after having acquired Blake Snell and Yu Darvish. The Padres went out and traded for right-hander Joe Musgrove from Pittsburgh, sending lefty Joey Lucchesi to the Mets, and a package of 4 prospects to the Pirates in return. That group of prospects was headlined by outfielder Hudson Head, who I think a lot of people in the Padres organization are really high on as a 5-tool-ish outfielder, but he's 19 years old, and the Padres felt that was a worthwhile price to pay for a major league-ready rotation option with some serious upside. Why did the Padres go for Joe Musgrove? Well, there's obviously a lot to like there, especially when you can slot him behind the big three of Snell, Darvish, and Dinelson Lamet. I mean, if you put Joe Musgrove and Chris Paddock at the back end of your rotation, it's hard to envision a better 4 or 5 in Major League Baseball than those two. Musgrove also finished the season strong last year, and there's a lot to like kind of on the periphery of his game. He struck out a lot of hitters last year, 55 in under 40 innings, and he allowed some seriously weak contact. Both his strikeout rate and his average exit velocity ranked in the best 10 percentile among pitchers in baseball last season, so if you face Joe Musgrove, it's going to be tough to hit him, and then if you hit him, it's going to be tough to hit him hard. So there's a lot to work with there. His fastball isn't quite at the level of what you'd expect from Garrett Cole and Tyler Glasnow. What took those two guys who were former Pirates to become aces when they left the Pirates? He's probably not there because his fastball isn't at that level, but his breaking stuff is borderline elite. His slider and his curveball are easily his 2 best pitches, and they induce a ton of strikeouts. And so if you stick that at the back end of a rotation that already features some really strong arms at the front, the Padres are really happy with what they got in Joe Musgrove. So where does the Musgrove deal leave the rest of the Padres rotation? It's an interesting question. On the surface, the Padres rotation looks pretty set. I mean, they're gonna put Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Dinelson Lamet in some combination as their front 3. They're going to put Joe Musgrove, Chris Paddock at the back end, and all of a sudden you've got one of the best rotations in baseball. But there are some question marks there, most notably the health status of Dinelson Lamet, who missed the postseason because of an elbow injury. He had a PRP injection in October. Thus far, his progress is extremely encouraging for the Padres. He's reported no pain to them, but I think privately a lot of Padres officials acknowledge that the Padres aren't going to be over the hump understanding the full health status of Dinelson Lamet until he gets back on a mound and pitches in game settings. And so that's what they're waiting for. They're kind of waiting for spring training to understand. And this Joe Musgrove trade does give the Padres a little bit of depth in the event of a worst-case scenario, which the Padres aren't preparing for, but they at least need to be ready for. Another question mark is Chris Paddock, who had a setback in 2020 after an excellent 2019 rookie season. The Padres think he can rebound. They hope he can rebound. They're now pushing him to rebound, because if he doesn't rebound, they have options behind him. And so the fix for Chris Paddock seems pretty simple to me. He's got to locate his fastball better. He's got to make it more efficient. He's got to get it back to the pitch that it was in 2019 when he was maybe the best rookie pitcher in Padres history. And so the Padres rotation has some question marks. Joe Musgrove adds some stability. What it also does is it probably guarantees that top prospect Mackenzie Gore will open the season in the minor leagues barring injury, and it makes the bullpen mix a little bit more interesting with Ryan Weathers and Adrian Morejon, a couple of other young lefties who might now slide more into the bullpen focal point as opposed to competing for that number 5 starter role, which now essentially goes to Joe Musgrove. I think with any AJ Preller trade, we need to ask ourselves what comes next. AJ Preller tends to make moves in flurries. He's already gone out and acquired 3 big-name starters and a big-time infielder this winter. What comes next on the agenda? It's probably not starting pitching, believe it or not. The Padres have found a starting 5 with some depth options in the minor leagues. They're set there. Where they might look to improve is in the bullpen and on their bench. In the bullpen, it's an interesting scenario because they've lost 2 closers in Trevor Rosenthal and Kirby Yates. But they feel like they have guys like Emilio Pagan and Drew Pomeranz who could slide into that 9th inning role if necessary. So the Padres will look for relievers, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a closer. It could be a middle innings guy. Or it's not entirely imperative that they go out and sign a reliever if the price isn't right. And thus far, the prices have been a bit high on the relief market, and that's why they focus more on starting pitching. What that focus on starting pitching has done, because they've built depth in their rotation and they're currently 5 deep, well, now Adrian Morejon and Ryan Weathers can open the season as part of that bullpen mix or as part of the group competing for bullpen spots. They're 2 electric young arms, so if you put them in the middle innings and put your big-time arms like Pomeranz and Pagan at the back end, maybe you've got a full group of workable relievers. Even without going out and making a signing, the Padres will still be active and looking for one, though. And lastly, what's the state of the Padres farm system? Well, they've traded 31 players since the trade deadline, most of them prospects, a lot of them with high upside, and they still, believe it or not, probably have one of the top 10 farm systems in the game. they've managed to hang on to their big-time prospects like Mackenzie Gore, C.J. Abrams, Luis Campusano, Ryan Weathers, Robert Hassel, and they added Ha-Sung Kim to that mix earlier this offseason by signing him from Korea. And so the Padres farm system is not quite as deep as it once was. It doesn't have as many names for potentially completing some of these big-time blockbuster deals as they did before this winter, but they've already completed those blockbuster deals, and now it looks like they have a pretty complete rotation.